Diversity and Inclusion here at CBS Entertainment. On behalf of CBS, I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's panel. Our team's mission is to change the landscape of the entertainment industry by providing exposure, access, and opportunity to several underrepresented groups. One way we achieve this goal is by partnering with groups and organizations who, like us, want to see diversity and inclusion in Hollywood, both in front of and behind the camera. Under the leadership of a boss queen, a champion of change, Miss Geena Davis. The Geena Davis Institute on Gender in the Media provides education, resources, and tools that provide gender representation and parity. And while this powerful organization is empowering and inspiring young girls and women around the world, it's proving to everyone that if you see it, you can be it. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the head of the Institute's Board of Advisors, Ms. Susan Wright.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. All us boss ladies here tonight. Yes, yes. Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome. As she said, I'm Susan Wright. I've had the distinct pleasure and privilege of being on the Board of Advisors for the Institute for the past few years. I feel very grateful for that position, and I see how important the research is and continues to be. I want to thank our team here for putting this together tonight, for working tirelessly to bring us all together, and to thank CBS for being our partner all these years. We're closing our year out tonight in the salon, so thank you for having us always. I just want to take a couple of minutes here to talk about these salons and membership. As we know that these salons are a privilege for the members and primarily for members only. And tonight we have a very special offer for all of our existing members here tonight. If you recommend a new member and they join by the end of the year, you, the member, will receive a discount on next year's membership. It'll be $150 as opposed to $250. That's $12 a month for this research. 4 cups of coffee, 4 cups of coffee, 4 cups of coffee to support. And please make sure when you do refer someone to join that they enter your name when prompted on the online sign-up. And any questions, of course, we can answer for you. And if there's anyone here tonight who currently is not a member, we'd also like to offer you a one-time discount to join tonight. You can be a member for $200 a year, $16 a month, people. 5 cups of coffee. That's it. That's it. That's it. And it supports all of the amazing research and the impact that the Institute has and continues to make strides for. It really does support. Truthfully, it does. We're a nonprofit, so it does help. So thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. And now I'd love to introduce our fearless leader, the founder and chair of the Geena Davis Institute, Geena Davis.
I better be the founder and chair since I named it after myself. Hi, everybody. Great to see you. Wow, it's standing room only. This is fantastic. This is a very hot mic. I want to thank CBS again for being our closing sponsor of these salons, and we always look forward to coming back to see CBS at the end of the year, so it's very exciting. Special thanks also to Tiffany and Riza for bringing us together, and your entire Entertainment Diversity and Inclusion team for your tremendous support as always. Thank you to our incredible panelists that you're going to hear from tonight. Really amazing women who are leading the way to improve representations in children's entertainment, children's television. You're also going to hear some exciting findings from our See Jane 2019 report, which you'll hear. There's some actually historic news that we found. For the first time ever, children's television shows have reached parity in the lead characters, which is it's really, really news because there's no other category in front of or behind the camera that's ever even come close to reaching parity for men and women. So it's amazing. And I mean, that was the goal for me from the very beginning, was change what kids see first, and that will have an impact on everything. So there's still some work to do in the supporting characters and the background characters, but it's incredibly exciting. And it's only, we've only been doing this about 15 years, so to have that happen is remarkable. We're hoping by next year we'll see some movement of the needle in film. We just have to get film to also catch up with this great progress. But thank you to all of you members for being here tonight. It's only with your help that we can do any of this. So I'm going to now turn it over to Soraya Giaccardi, who is going to present the findings from that study, the See Jane 2019 report. Thank you so much for being here.
Alrighty, let's get started. So thank you everybody for being here. As Geena mentioned, we are super excited to share with you the findings from our latest See Jane report. As many of you that are here already know, the Geena Davis Institute has been educating creators on the state of representation in media, as well as advocating for greater inclusion since 2004. We believe in inclusion because we think that everybody has the right to feel seen and to find themselves in the stories of characters that they see on screen. Media have the power to change lives by promoting storylines that are at the forefront of social progress and elevate the voices of those that are often unheard. Together, we can create media that captivates and inspires audiences to imagine a world of possibilities, which is why our motto, as you have heard already, is if she can see it, she can be it. We truly believe that we can accomplish this mission through cutting-edge research and solid data. So every year, we generate a comprehensive report on the state of representation in children's media, what we call our annual See Jane report. And this year, we did something pretty big that we are super excited to share. So in our most comprehensive See Jane report to date, we examined characters in the 50 most popular children's television programs of 2018, the top 100 children's films, and that includes films that are rated G through PG-13, and the top 100 popular films, which includes R-rated movies. Now, as many of our researchers here could attest to, we could talk about our findings all day long, but we have only about 10 minutes. So today I'll focus on our findings regarding children's television, and I'm happy to chat in more detail with anybody at any point tonight. And of course, you can always check our website to see all of our full research reports. So when we began seeing the results of our initial analyses of children's television, we got pretty excited, and we weren't the only ones who got excited. In fact, an itty-bitty newspaper called the Washington Post, you may have heard of it, covered our findings in their paper as well. So one of the first things that we realized was that female characters reached parity with male characters in regards to screen time and speaking time. And for those of you that may be unfamiliar, we calculate this using the Geena Davis Inclusion Quotient, or the GDIQ. This is the only software tool of its kind with the ability to measure screen time and speaking time down to the millisecond. So it just gives us this accuracy and precision that we can't get otherwise. And this tool, of course, was funded by Google, and it was developed by our wonderful and our amazing team of researchers at USC's Signal Interpretation and Analysis Lab. So using the GDIQ, we found that in the top children's programs of 2018, female characters accounted for 55.3% of screen time. We also found that female characters accounted for 50.3% of speaking time. This is much better than what we typically see both in children's films and popular films, so it gave us an indication that something unique was happening here with children's TV. Through our team of researchers, our human expert coding team, we also found that 52% of leading characters in children's programming are female. 52% of leading characters. As Geena mentioned, that's not something we see often, right? That's not something we've ever seen. So at that point in the research process, we got together to talk about this amazing finding that we came across, and Geena suggested that we take things one step further by going back and tracking female leads across 10 years of children's television programming. And what we saw is that there's been a dramatic rise in leading female characters from 42% in 2008 to 52% in 2018. And we first reached parity in 2011, and that number of female leads has increased since then. So to give you a reference point of comparison, girls and women make up only 32.8% of leading characters in children's films, and only 39.1% of leading characters in popular films. So again, we see children's television outperforming both children's films and popular films with regards to female leads in a tremendous way. So while we have made tremendous progress in this regard, and we certainly deserve to celebrate it, it is also important to note that there are still areas where we need to see improvement. So for example, although female characters reached parity when it came to leading roles, the gender gap was larger for supporting and for minor roles. So female characters made up only 43.1% of supporting roles and 34.9% of minor roles. We also saw that, that female characters in children's television were 7 times more likely than male characters to be shown in revealing clothing. They were almost 4 times as likely to be shown partially nude. They were 4 times as likely to be visually objectified. And by visual objectification, we mean things like having the camera pan up and down a woman's body, or things like zooming into a woman's breast while she's jogging, right? Those are the things that we refer to as visual objectification. We also saw that female characters were 5 times as likely to be verbally objectified. And verbal objectification refers to things like catcalling or having other characters speak about a woman's physical appearance. We also examined stereotypes that are typically associated with men and masculinity, and we found that male characters are twice as likely to be depicted as violent and twice as likely to be shown as criminal. Right? So together, these images can reinforce stereotypes about women being sexual objects and men being, violent physical aggressors. So in addition to gender, we also examined representations of race, sexuality, and disability. We found that people of color make up only 26.1% of leading characters and 29% of supporting characters. And this is despite the fact that people of color make up 38% of the US population. As we saw with gender, this gap was larger for minor roles, in which people of color accounted for only 21.5% of roles. And even though characters of color are underrepresented in leading, supporting, and minor roles, a race gap, we did not find racial gap when it came to screen time. So even though there were fewer characters of color included, they received about as much average screen time as white characters did, so about 48.9% of screen time compared to 51.1% of screen time. Now, underrepresentation was particularly evident when it came to LGBTQ characters and characters with disabilities. Of the leading characters in children's television, 99.8% are depicted as heterosexual. This means that LGBT characters make up a very, very measly 0.2% of leading characters and less than 1% of supporting and minor characters. And we also know that historically, the LGBT community has been overly sexualized and often stereotyped as being promiscuous or deviant in media, and we found some of those similar patterns even in children's television. So in the top programs of 2018, LGBTQ characters are 25 times more likely than heterosexual characters to be verbally objectified. LGBTQ characters are nearly 6 times more likely to be shown as criminal and 7.5 times more likely to be shown as having low intelligence. Right, very concerning. Characters with disabilities were also very, very severely underrepresented. So in the United States, about 18.7% of the population have some form of physical, cognitive, or communication disability. But in children's television, people with disabilities make up less than 1% of leading characters. So to sum things up, right, to kind of wrap it up, it is absolutely historic that female characters have achieved parity in children's television programs as measured by the percentage of leading characters, by screen time, and by speaking time. And these findings provide us hope that the strides that we've made with children's television can also be achieved with other forms of media, right? If we can do this with children's TV, there's no reason why we can't do this with children's films and with popular films. And these findings also provide the hope that the strides that we've made with regards to gender representation can also be achieved with regards to race, sexuality, and disability. So to achieve these goals, we put forth several recommendations, as we always do, of course. So one of our first recommendations is use our GDIQ tool. So our GDIQ tool can help at every stage of the production process to uncover gender and racial bias. It's really important to analyze scripts before green lighting them to make sure that the cast is gender and race balanced in terms of number of characters, prominence, speaking time, screen time. Your project does not have to be complete, right? You don't have to have it already filmed and ready to go for us to be able to use GDIQ to analyze representation. So again, using our GDIQ tool at every step in the process is one of our recommendations. Second, we really need to diversify hiring and writing and directing. So as many of you know, diversity in the writing rooms and in the director's chair often translates to more diversity on screen. So oftentimes, the problem with representation often starts with inequitable hiring practices. So studios must truly commit to anti-discrimination in their hiring and set hiring goals to diversify their workforce instead of just paying lip service to inclusion. We must also commit to distribution and marketing resources equally, because another foundational problem with representation on screen is that projects led by women often do not receive the same distribution and marketing resources than projects led by men. So fourth, we really must consider stories that reflect the broader population and our changing audience. So Gen Z, which as of 2019, Gen Z is roughly ages 7 to 12. This group of people are the most racially and ethnically diverse group in US history. Nearly half of Gen Zers, so 48%, are people of color. Gen Z also views sexuality as fluid, with 52% identifying as something other than exclusively straight or exclusively gay. So content creators must tell stories, authentic stories, that are relevant to this changing audience and this changing population. And lastly, we really need to diversify minor characters, right? So minor characters, background characters, they greatly outnumber the number of leading and supporting characters that we see both in TV and in film. And because these characters don't contribute to the central storyline, or they often don't speak, it may be more feasible at different stages in production to make casting changes in those roles. So content creators should aim to cast these minor characters that are visually diverse in age, in gender, in race and ethnicity, ability, and sexual orientation, because this better reflects the US population. So I'll end with a quote from Chimamanda Adichie's TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story. She said, "Stories matter. Many stories matter. Stories have been used to dispossess and to malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity." Thank you.
Okay, hi. That was a lot of data and a lot of really great information. Those suggestions at the end, I hope we're all really soaking those in and thinking about them. And I know everyone on this panel is definitely involved in this stuff. I'm Dr. Nicole Haggard. I teach in the Film, Media, and Social Justice program at Mount St. Mary's University, which is the only all-women's university in Los Angeles. So we're super excited to have some of our students here. We're also a partner with the Geena Davis Institute. And this panel, I think, is especially exciting for the Institute because it really is the reason why Geena started everything. Right? Like, I'm sure you've all heard her stories about watching kids programming with her children and being like, oh my God, what are my children consuming? And so it really was the spark for it. And so now to have this advancement that we have, and all of these women are really at the forefront of making sure that that's happening. All of their shows are participating in it in profound ways. So let's get started and introduce them, which will be great, and we'll have a great conversation. So all the way down on the end, we have Anna Wenger. She's a 4-time Emmy nominee, and right now she is the showrunner for Mission Unstoppable on CBS. Yay. And next to her, we have Stacy Kim, who is currently the Vice President of Series at Warner Brothers Animation. Next to her, we have Nicole Dubuc, who is a 7-time Emmy nominee, and she is currently the executive producer for The Rocketeer. And then we have Gina Heitkamp, who comes from us from a different sort of world. She is the CEO of Gen Girl Media, which is now turned into a television show. She is the executive producer of Nickelodeon's Middle School Moguls. So I really am fascinated by this idea of if she can see it, she can be it, right? And that's why we're here today. We all really believe in that mission. And as we heard from the data, we have a lot of really great advancements that are being made, but a lot of challenges ahead of us as well. And all of these women are at the forefront of shows that are doing that work. So I want to hear from you guys, what excites you about this field? Why are you guys involved in this, in the world of children's TV?
I can turn on my, okay, here we go. I'm at Warner Brothers, and one of my primary focuses there is preschool projects, and that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about. I love preschool because they're such sponges at that age, and you have such an immense responsibility. You're putting things in front of them for the very first time, and they're just learning all about the world. So I think it's amazing that, I'm actually the one kind of helping to put that content in front of their eyes. And when you see a 3-year-old watching something and just being so in awe of these characters and living and breathing them and wanting to do everything with those characters, it's pretty amazing.
Nicole, you've been involved in some of groundbreaking children's TV. So what's it like for you? Why have you done it for so long and stayed within this medium?
It's funny because I always enjoyed cartoons. Growing up, my family never kind of drew a line to say oh, that's for kids. If it's a good story, then it's something worth watching. And so because of that, I watched cartoons all through college. And so it seems natural to me that this is where I ended up. The way I approach it, the same thing. You're exposing young kids to, sometimes it's the first time that they've learned a story or a piece of factual information or seen a world in a different way. And being able to give that is a gift. So that's kind of what I take the most seriously, I think, is that I want to put good in the world. I want to inspire people to do good based on what they see.
Yeah, and for you, that's huge, right? About the see it, she can be it piece of it.
Yes, absolutely. Our television show, Mission Unstoppable, on CBS Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., is specifically where we made the show to show representation of women working in science, technology, engineering, and math for girls ages 10 to 15, but also their parents who tend to have the remote control on Saturday morning, because everyone needs to be able to see that women can, of all races and types, can be involved in science, technology, engineering, and math, and that representation is key, as the Geena Davis Institute has found, in influencing young people and people of all ages, really.
Yeah, because
so
we're watching it, and it's what are we watching girls do? And being able to have different solutions or different outlets for the things that they're doing, which is a lot of what the dolls do too, right?
Yes, so you can hear me, right? My sister and I started a toy company called Middle School Moguls, and it was after we kind of saw this information from the Geena Davis Institute that kids really assign these gender identities to careers between the ages of 5 and 7, so really young. And so we wanted to create these dolls that inspired entrepreneurship and technology learning and STEM careers for young kids, and then we parlayed that into the TV show. So I guess we love being in children's media, not only because it's this chance at this critical age to really kind of influence their future and hopefully help them to become ultimately whatever they desire to become, but also it's just really fun, so.
Right, that's the piece of it too, it's kid stuff, it's fun. Yeah. And I think too that working on the shows that you've worked on, Nicole, some of the most impactful inclusion-based shows. Do you guys remember Kim Possible, My Little Pony, right? And now The Rocketeers. I remember were you guys My Little Pony fans? I feel like my whole room was My Little Ponies, right? But I was adopted, and so I often felt like I didn't belong in normal places, right? And watching My Little Ponies, I I don't know, you felt like everybody belonged, you know? And I think all of your shows are really working at that level of inclusion. And, you know, part of that data that we heard about Gen Z too, not only are they fluid in the sexuality realm, but they're really fluid in the gender role realm too. And then maybe a lot of that does have to do with these shows that Stacey, you start like in preschool, right? I mean, so Nicole, we'll start with you, but like, can you give us sort of tips or things that have worked for you in making sure that your shows are really inclusive and creating that sort of universe for kids to consume?
Sure thing. So I actually learned pretty early on, one of my great mentors was a man named Greg Weissman who created Gargoyles. And when I was writing for him, one of the things he would do in action lines is he would call out male and female for any background character and then diverse background. And so like whether you're writing ninjas or you're writing fairgoers, they're always called out in the script that we're looking for people that look diverse. And when you put it in the script, it's real. Someone has to cast that, someone has to respect that. And so it's just, people sometimes don't even think that they have that power, they can just put that there and make it happen. So that's something I've kept in mind as a way to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Geena always says that too, right? Like, write it in the script.
Make it the Bible.
Make it so clear.
Forth.
Yeah, because if it's on the script, it has to happen, right? So background characters, which are 50% female, right? And from diverse backgrounds. Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to also chime in too. Another way that I found is that sometimes if you can get a celebrity to agree to a role, then you can automatically cast for their diversity. And so sometimes, you know, if a studio is resistant for whatever reason about that, you can say, but we're going to cast authentically, so this is really important. And studios have gotten a lot better, at least in animation, about respecting that and putting a person in a role that should be playing that role.
Yeah. Just going off of that, I think the thing that a lot of you guys mentioned too, when it came to diversity, was like using animals, right? And how does that get around it? But we went through like a big period where there was, and still sometimes, we would see these racist tropes like showing up in the animals too. Did you ever come up against that with the ponies or in any other animal characters that any of you guys are thinking of?
I mean, I feel like we were always trying to be really conscious not to do that. And one of the fun things about My Little Pony is that this is kind of, we had a bunch of female characters, and so what was great about that is that you didn't have to say, this one female character represents everybody. Each pony could be a different way to be a girl. I think Lauren Faust created a really great world in that, to just say that, you know, there is no one way that you have to be female. And so Pony was the perfect example that we could just say, all right, you guys are all different.
Yeah. Stacey, can you kind of walk us through the different stages that you mentioned, like where it's preschool and then 6 to 10-year-olds and
Sure, yeah, we talked a little bit about this. Yeah, so I think we are in such a good place with preschool. I think, you know, Rocketeers, there's so many shows now where there's a girl as the leading role. And, sorry, I'm coming in. And there are also diverse characters in leading roles. But I think that's because at that preschool age, we're all kind of thinking about that. We're all kind of cognizant. We want to be putting good content in front of our audience. I think as kids get older, you're kind of thinking just on a pure entertainment level. What are kids going to find engaging? What are kids going to laugh at? And you're not thinking as much about, okay, are we really being really inclusive? Are we being diverse? And are we showing that these diverse characters in really positive ways? So, you know, and then as the adult even drops out even more. So I think the more we keep that in mind for all audiences, because, you know, we're still absorbing information as we get older, so it's still very, very important. And, you know, kids are now watching adult content too at a much, much younger age. So, I mean, it just becomes that much more important. Like, kids are, you know, 5-year-olds are watching Stranger Things, you know, like things, you know, so let's make sure that that content too reflects our true reality.
Yeah, and this idea that as you get further in entertainment, you don't have to be as socially conscious, whereas they're like really, you know, we think about like Sesame Street, right? Like it's like overly diverse, overly social conscious in all kinds of ways. And so why is it that we don't continue that energy? Which may be why you guys like get stuck in kids' TV, right? Like you get to do that kind of stuff all the time, yeah. Will you talk to us a little bit about why it was so important for you to, Geena, to have like the dolls be affordable and accessible?
Yeah, so one of the things that we really wanted to do when we started the company is we wanted these inspirational toys to be affordable at a price point where you could pick it up at a Walmart or a Target. And so those were our partners when we launched the toy company. And to us, we just wanted it to be something that the masses could consume, a kid anywhere in America, and hopefully eventually the world could afford to purchase. Because a lot of times, or sometimes, these kind of more inspirational toys are at a higher price point. And so when we had the opportunity to pitch to Nickelodeon, it felt like a dream come true, because what better way to reach the masses with an inspirational message than through children's media? And so that's been something that's huge to us. And under the leadership, executive leadership of Claire, who's in the audience, Claire Curley, we brought on the Geena Davis Institute also to maintain the diversity and to maintain the authenticity of the characters. And so we're really proud of that.
Yeah, and we are too. You know, having these partnerships that the Institute has with Mission Unstoppable and with you, it's like really being able to have the data line up with the creation side, right? And like being able to work back and forth. Like, this is what we're doing. Is this in line with what we're really trying to achieve here? And that's also what we hope we can inspire in all of you tonight too, right? Is like tools and ways that you can really be advancing either the stuff that you're creating or the stuff that you're consuming, being conscious consumers about what we're consuming. And so we have Mission Unstoppable is doing amazing things for women in STEM, right? So to give you a little more data, we did another study with the Lyda Hill Foundation on the portrayal of STEM characters, of female STEM characters. And we found that actually 63% of STEM characters are male, which actually doesn't even line up with the reality of STEM characters in real life, and over 70% are white. And so I know you're overly passionate about this and can talk about it all night. Let's go.
No, and this is something that we're so aware of just every day, that we're casting and we're finding women to be representative of science, technology, engineering, and math. And, you know, what I believe, Nicole, you said, you know, these television shows are actually for everyone. You're saying you're making them for children, but adults are watching them too. If they're good, adults will watch them. And so just as far as casting, like, we all watched Bill Nye the Science Guy or Mr. Wizard when we were kids. I didn't think I was going to necessarily be a scientist. I thought, you know, old white men were scientists, but I still enjoyed science. So it's the kind of thing where if you cast you know, when you're, and I say casting even though these are real people, but when you're thinking about who you're going to put in your show, you're remembering that everyone is watching this. So it's just as important for the dads to see that their daughters can become these people, or the boyfriends to see that their girlfriends can become these people, and for the girls to see, you know, we talked about casting men in the show because that was a big thing. At the top, I think we all kind of just assumed, and we weren't really, you know, thinking about it too hard, but that all of our correspondents would be female. And but then, you know, as we're looking for the correspondents who are going to go interview the STEM guests and then the STEM guests themselves, we're like, well, shouldn't we show men with these women who respect these women's opinions and listen to them and know that they're smart? And maybe some of these men are their bosses, but their bosses respect and value their knowledge and opinions. And some of these men may be working for these women, but they're working for them and they respect them and all of this. And so, you know, when you think about casting and diversity and representation, you just want to cover every base, you know, and it goes to your point, Geena, that we really want girls to see they can be whatever they want to be, you know, and I think that's the most important thing that we can do for the youth.
I think
and for everyone.
awesome part about that show too. We know that the portrayal of STEM characters, 43% of them will sacrifice their personal lives, right? So there's this vibe,
right.
Like you're like a female scientist, you can't have not a real life. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? Like,
yeah, that's one of the major STEM barriers for girls who are getting into, you know, and it drops off right at puberty. So basically, right at puberty, when girls are getting interested in boys, they go, well, I'm no longer interested in science, technology, engineering, or math, because every person I see represented every woman I see represented in media in science, technology, engineering, and math are alone, working in a lab. They're cold. They don't have a husband and children. You know, they're uptight and they're lonely and, you know, alone, which is not the reality of women who are working in science, technology, engineering, and math, which is why when, you know, at the top of it, you know, so the way that they're represented currently are not being feminine or not being in relationships. So then the temptation is, oh, well, this woman is a model and a scientist, and this woman wears heels and has a PhD in chemistry. But you're like, well, wait, I don't want to say that you have to be a model and have a PhD in physics. Like, that's too much. Like, you know. So what you do is you go, well, you can be a model and have a PhD in physics, or you cannot be a model and have a PhD in physics, or you can have a family or not have a family, or, you know, just be whoever you want.
Yeah.
And it's these key barriers that you just want to show representation that, you know, girls should keep going.
Yeah, and that's what's dope about the show too, is that you have real life women in STEM in all these different fields, and some of them are models, right?
Yeah, I mean, they are.
And
Yeah.
hanging out with some of them as part of, you know, the show, they're all so fun too. You feel like you're in a sorority, you know.
It's really cool to see them all together too, because you never see that.
Right.
You know, just big groups of women who all have PhDs in various, you know, areas, and they're so diverse too. Like, it's not that hard to cast. You know.
Did you even have like a blind computer programmer or something like that on the show?
Yes, we have a blind programmer who's teaching other blind children, you know, blind children how to code drones. You know, we have a woman who works in visual effects who is a paraplegic. We have a woman who, you know, lost her leg at a very young age, who is an ethnobotanist. And so, yeah, we really try and just show everything that we can.
Yeah, which
everyone
I feel
that
like
we can, I should say.
We all need to see more about everything to really understand. I mean, science is the answer, right? Like solving all of the world's problems and understanding how that's
science
working.
is for everyone.
Yeah.
And science is the answer. And the
Okay,
other thing we do is
speaking-
ages. Sorry, we
no,
try and
go
go
for it.
from like 14 to 70. We've got a spread there too.
But speaking of it's for everyone, right? Can we talk about this crazy double standard that exists? It's almost like, you know, it's a show with the lead girl, great, but it almost falls into like the chick flick thing too, right? It's like, oh, so it's for girls, but boys aren't gonna watch it. And this double standard still existing in the industry is so counter to all of your experiences. So can you speak to some of the things that you've noticed about who's watching these shows, and then why you think that double standard still exists?
Can I jump in real fast?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe one of the places that this has started is in merchandising, and that because there's a specific amount of shelf space for gender, for age, then the shows get codified that way by the marketing teams behind the shows. But also now that we have more streaming and things that aren't necessarily tied to toy, people are starting to realize, you know, you write a good show, anybody will watch it. And I'm back to the same thing again, I'm harping on, but I feel like, you know, it's really this concept that's been created that, you know, only boys will watch boys and girls will watch everything, whereas I feel like it used to be more of like a marketing strategy.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we're moving away from that.
Yeah, even as like toy aisles become less gendered.
Exactly.
As well. Yeah.
And just kind of dovetailing off of what Nicole said. Yeah, I think it was kind of, you know, the chicken or the egg. I think with the merchant, they always kind of pointed to, well, you know, girls will only watch this kind of show, or boys will only watch this kind of show, and they'll only buy this kind of product. So we're only going to make these kind of shows. So, but if you make a show that's universally appealing, then guess what? You're going to get a lot of people watching it and a lot of people wanting to buy that product. So I think it's, you know, the streaming, you know, the universe that we're in now, that is so liberating. You know, we can do so many different things. So, like, for example, I'm working on this show called Little Ellen, based on Ellen DeGeneres, and she's a 7-year-old version of her. And
It's gonna be amazing.
Super exciting. But it's, I mean, I tried to imagine, having come from a network before, where, you know, we were kind of more beholden to ad sales and that kind of thing. I was like, could we have done this before? I don't know if we could have done that. And, you know, having this girl where she has short hair, you know, before we were always told, oh, she has the long hair. Yeah, I gotta sell the toys with the long hair for the dolls. She has short hair, she wears shorts, she doesn't wear dresses or skirts, because that's who Ellen DeGeneres is. And she always has one shoe untied, and she's got scrapes and Band-Aids, and that's, you know, she's kind of a rough and tumble kid, but she's a girl, and that's totally realistic.
Yeah. I know we were even talking about like nobody thinks of SpongeBob as being a boys show,
Right.
right? Even though it's like SpongeBob and Squidward, and they're both just like these basic messy people,
Yeah.
but it's not a boys show.
Yeah.
So, where that starts happening, and you were noticing a lot with like when you were watching the screeners for shows. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like what came up for you?
Oh yeah, so we're fairly new to the industry, and so we just started getting the screeners in the mail. And for animation, I started opening them, and I just kept seeing, for your consideration, you would open it, and it would be a list of 20 or 30 men. And I was thinking, for these general Disney movies and such, and it just kind of really, stuck out to me as there might be an issue there if we're not having diverse writer rooms. And how are we going to create, we can have diversity on the screen, but how are we going to create authentic storylines if we're not having diversity behind the scenes?
Yeah, and that's a huge piece of it too. And the showrunners, which that's why I'm so excited that you're a showrunner, because you get to make those decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I believe you mentioned that if you have a diverse, if you're in a higher, it was tips to how to diversify things, right? And that script thing is really smart, and I've never heard that about writing in the diversity in things like background characters. But also, if you're in a power position, you have to hire diverse people. You just, and you have to think about it, and you have to look for them, because, and it might be difficult, but it's just such a great way to ensure that whatever product you're putting out is going to be diverse.
Yeah, and I think that's actually this, like the double standard thing is a facade, right? And I think the idea that hiring diverse is difficult is a facade too, right? Like we have so many amazing talented people, even in the disabled community, there's so many ways that we can do it. And so breaking all of those, but it's hard, right? Or, but boys won't watch this, right? How do we really, people on the forefront of this movement, sort of break those assumptions too and bring that to the table, which is amazing. So speaking of things we want to change, what are the tropes that we just want to get rid of? Like, were you guys aghast that girls are still 7 times more likely to be in revealing clothing, right? Or that LGBTQ characters are more criminal and more sexually provocative? I mean, these tropes are just, ugh. So what are some of the things that you guys are like, this is the thing that I really just want to get rid of and end forever?
I think for me that it's that there's a certain way that intelligent people behave is something that really bothers me. And I think about it, with the Visco girls. Have you heard about the Visco girls? And so I'm looking it up because I'm like, I have to know because I'm doing kids TV. And I'm like, what are the qualities of Visco? And apparently, for those of you who don't know, Visco girl is like the new Valley girl, or the new Basic, or the new teeny bopper. I mean, we've been making fun of for decades of girls being girls, but the Visco girls, there's an app that corrects your, it makes you prettier or whatever when you take a photo. So that's what the Visco app is. And I look up what these girls do or what qualifies them as a Visco girl. Number one, they use the app that makes them prettier in their photos, which is just like that message where it's just like, be pretty, be pretty, be pretty. But if I catch you trying to be pretty, I'm going to make fun of you for it.
Right.
And then, I look it up in the girl, they had a girl making fun of a Visco girl, and she's like, oh my gosh, do you want to borrow my scrunchie? I'm trying to save the turtles. Do you like my sustainable water bottle? And she's trying to save turtles, and
she's a badass.
and has a sustainable water bottle, and we're making fun of her? Like, what is happening? Aren't we just making fun of girls for being girly and having a girly voice and talking in a girly way? And does that automatically mean that she can't be intelligent or that we should, make fun of her for it? And I think with science, technology, engineering, and math, that's part of it. It's like, well, if you're going to be smart, you have to talk smart.
Right.
Or you have to look smart. But actually, there are all kinds of smart people who come from all kinds of walks of life, who have all different speech patterns. And part of it is like, this being girly, the teeny bopper, the Valley girl, the Basic, the Visco girl, it's all the same thing. It's all making fun of young girls and the way they talk and what they like. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, feels like something that we could
it's messy.
Get rid
it's
of.
Like this big split between being a girl and being smart, right?
Yeah.
Like fitting in as a girl and then being smart. I remember in middle school, I was really, I'm a nerd, so I was super smart, but I overplayed, I'm from the Valley, I was like, oh my God, I overplayed it so that people wouldn't know I was smart, right? Like how those two things really work in conjunction with each other. And in the characters, Like you were talking about how they didn't want to do that one sequence with Miranda.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, I just said, it's like,
Yeah,
and
like, totally.
I had her saying, it's like, and everyone was like, this is stupid, and she looks wistful, and, she's looking up in the, and she's kind of just thinking about science and being ridiculous. And it was like, well, that's not respectful of science, and it's not respectful of women.
But why?
I don't know, but maybe it's not. I mean, it's this discussion that there really is no answer to, and it's just kind of the gut feeling that you get. Yeah. But we've all been made fun of, or told not to say like, or not to say because you sound stupid our whole life. So we've all been trained to believe that. But does that really mean you're stupid? A lot of young girls talk. I mean, that's how they talk. Yeah. So I don't have a clear answer, but we're trying to balance it out and figure out how to make, what is the answer, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, other
is the
tropes
answer.
we want to get rid of. What are we trashing?
For me, it's, I think right now, with the gender parity, I think it's awesome. The fact that we have so many shows with girls in the leading roles. But I think a lot of those shows are about girls who are pretty amazing at whatever it is that they do. And I think that is really important for these times. What I can't wait for is the time when we can have shows with girls in leading roles where they are SpongeBob and Patrick. And we were just joking, we're like, where we can make, it can just be basic and just have fun. And we can just really enjoy that. Like, don't put so much pressure on ourselves. Yeah. Like, we don't all have to be perfect, and that's totally fine, because men get away with it all the time, and they're applauded for it.
Right?
Let's do the same.
I want to be messy like SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's the hard thing too, especially in preschool, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to have a good role model, but at the same time, characters that are flawed are more interesting, they're more realistic, and then when they overcome stuff, it's cooler. Yeah. I mean, there's something to actually overcome and inspire you. So my pet peeve kind of is when you have two successful women in a show or a movie that they have to automatically be at odds. I hate that. We can support each other, we do in real life. They don't have to be the villains of the piece because they suddenly don't like each other.
Yeah.
That's one that I'm...
Yeah, we were joking about Isn't It Romantic? Have
Yep.
you guys seen that movie? But that was kind of the joke that they did when she was in the rom-com world, was that the girl who was like her best friend now has to be her enemy.
Right.
And it's like, why
Yes.
do we
Well-dressed arch, yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, it all comes back, and I feel like you were saying a similar thing too, is like, and again, there's no wrong way to be a girl. You don't have to have one character represent that, you can have 5 different characters represent that, they don't have to agree all the time, but they also don't have to want to kill each other because they're both successful.
Or wear makeup.
Right, or wear makeup. They don't have to be vilified for wearing makeup, and they don't have to be vilified for not wearing makeup.
Yes.
I mean, there's many ways to be female.
Yes.
Or identify as female.
Ours is actually the same. We see it a lot in children's television where there always has to be the mean girl or the friends all have to be fighting. And so it was important to us to really create lead girl characters that could just get along and be friends and overcome obstacles using teamwork and not have that kind of dynamic between them.
Yeah, because I bet all of you guys know it takes your tribe of girls, right? I mean, there's so many memes about that, right? Like, behind every successful woman is the tribe of girls in her group chat, right? That are pushing her along the way. But so why in our representation do we put them at odds, especially when there's so few characters, too? Yeah. Okay, so we'll wrap up with our final question. I really want us to leave here with ideas of what our audience can do, whether as content creators or as people who are consuming this media. So any tips or tricks for them of how to succeed in making this kind of content, or what you want them to do? Sure.
I'm gonna say it's a constant battle. So when I was working on Transformers Rescue Bots, we didn't have any female Transformer characters in the lead role. And every year I would put one in and be told that we couldn't do it. And then finally by year 4, I got to have my female Transformer.
Yes.
And so it's just, you can't quit. You just have to keep pushing that and like work the angles. You and I were having a little bit of a discussion that, I wanted to get some LGBTQ characters in the show. And so we wrote in a novel, and then we were able to kind of grandfather those characters into the show because they already existed in canon. So it's just always about looking for ways
to kind of get around that.
Yeah, or you said even having it be like two dads, right? Or something
right.
like that.
Yeah. And again, it's background characters as well.
Yeah.
You know, people are watching the background characters, and you can just have two dads back there, you know, having a loving relationship, raising a child.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
That's what Geena always says, like, we're so focused on lead characters that we forget that really the supporting world and the extras and the background characters are the thing that are creating this whole world for us. So let's focus on them too, you know, and what magic can we create there instead of only being so focused on these amazing girls who are the lead characters. Yeah.
For me, I would say to support and nurture each other. I think in animation, we're getting closer to parity in women writers. Where it comes to some catching up to do is the artists and directors and producers. We need more women and diversity in those leading roles. We need more of these women represented across the board. So I think those people are starting to come up in the ranks. But you know, the more we can support them and really, you know, mentor them and, you know, make sure that they get on that road to success, you know, the more representation we'll see across the board.
Yeah.
And I would just say try to find the right partners out there. There's studios out there that are looking for content like this, but it's hard to find them sometimes, but just keep looking, and when you find the right partner and the stars align, things magical can happen.
Yeah. And then bring the Geena Davis Institute on as your backup.
I would say pay attention to your own thoughts and notice in ways that you might be biased, that you weren't even aware of, you know, and you might be surprised, the little things that just pop into your head that you've learned from society. Girls don't do that, men are like this. And just remember when you're dealing with people out there in the world that all of us can be whatever we want to be.
Yeah. And as we're recognizing what we're watching too, right? Like being really purposeful as audience members, if you say you're about this movement, if you say you're about this work, if you're so excited that we've reached gender parity, what are you watching? Right? Like, what's the stuff you're actually buying or putting in front of your kids so that we all can really be conscious, because these shows don't continue, that like everybody wants another season, right? Like, how do we get that? We gotta watch, right? So speaking of watching, do you guys all want to shout out what channel you're on, what your show is, what time?
I'm on CBS, Saturday mornings.
Mission Unstoppable.
Mission Unstoppable with Miranda Cosgrove.
Disney Junior, The Rocketeer, on Fridays, I believe at 11 a.m.
And our show has already aired on Nickelodeon, but you can find it streaming and like Amazon and iTunes and everything.
I'll just shout out some of the shows that we've got going on. So we have Little Ellen, but that's, very early production, so it won't be coming out till 21 maybe on HBO Max.
No, wait.
But we also have DC Superhero Girls, such a great cast of the superheroes and supervillains, and how they have their all different kinds of relationships, also run by a woman. Mm-hmm. And we also have Harley Quinn. That's a rated R, so for the kids in the room, don't watch it. But that's another one. It's run by Jennifer Coyle, so a really great show. Voiced by Kaylee Cuoco. She's badass, she's funny, it's kind of got everything.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to turn it over to you all. Do we have any questions from the audience? Let me steal someone's mic.
Hello. Oh, that's loud. I did not expect that. Okay, so hello. I myself have been working on a bunch of my own stories, and
How old are you?
I'm 16.
Nice.
And I think a lot of my stories I work on with my friends. I'm gonna shout one of them out. I work on this one specific story with my friend Katerina, and I think it is important to sort of like kind of talk about the idea of like a bunch of people of different diversities and minorities kind of like working together and coming together and helping each other out, because I don't know, I kind of just like, I feel like this story that we're working on, it would not be the way it is without her, and I kind of want to shout her out because she's a really great friend, and I think it is important to sort of talk about like I guess you could say sisterhood, because we're both girls. And
question that you have for them.
I don't Oh, I just wanted it. I wanted to talk, but I didn't know what to say, so I panicked. My friend, Katerina, my friend. Well, yeah.
The importance of sisterhood, yeah.
Yeah.
And having allies on the shows to help and support.
Yeah.
Students. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I didn't know what to say.
So mine is more of a comment and to say thank you. And there was a chance I wasn't going to come tonight, but I'm thrilled to be here. One of the things that has caught my attention in what you've done and lately in the media is talking, starting a conversation. So for what you've done, it starts a conversation as a mom to my son. And there's a commercial out there right now, I think it's for Kaiser Permanente, where they showed different families, a montage that also had a drag queen and two moms. And do you know, I'm familiar with this. And I stopped it on my DVR so I could have that conversation with my son, who, when we were watching this, he kind of tilted his head at the drag queen part, and I said, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to talk about this. So for what you do, it's great because you're putting into stories, characters, things that are just, for what he was used to in Sesame Street is different now, and I thank you for that.
Have you guys gotten any feedback like that? Like where you did something that you knew was going to be, different, or I don't like to use the word progressive, but that sort of vibe, and you got feedback about that?
I think one of the best compliments you can get is, I feel seen. When somebody is able to see themselves or see their experience represented in media, it means so much. And so I think we're all striving to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't know if we had the first non-binary character, but we had a non-binary character played by the amazing Tim Gunn, if you guys are familiar. And we got a lot of great feedback from that. As we know, kids are more sexually fluid, and they felt really represented by seeing that character on their TV.
Hi, my name's Jeannie Myers, and I'm the director and co-founder of a web project called My Hero. The vision is to celebrate the best of humanity and promote diversity in women and human rights. So you can look at it online. It's been there for 25 years, and we've been building a rich multimedia library celebrating heroes around the world with stories told by professionals as well as students and teachers. And I think that, when you talk about diversity and you talk about inclusion and equity, it's a US-based conversation in many ways. And I see such opportunity in the world with the way that media has become more and more accessible to everyone for global storytelling. And I'm wondering, how you guys are addressing that. As it's a marketplace, but really in terms of bringing in storytellers from other parts of the world to tell their stories and put their faces on the screen.
Working local, thinking global. Anybody doing that? We're going to start doing it, apparently.
I'm hoping for the budget season 2 to be able to go to different countries, but yeah, right now we're just working on the US.
Yeah, which, that goes back to her theme too, right? Like, who are we bringing into the conversation? We think a lot about who's at the table, but who's not at the table, right? And how can we bring more people in? Yeah. Okay, someone with a real question.
Hi, so my name is Slavika, so I'm international, Serbia, France, Canada, US. My question is this: I'm a writer-producer, and my biggest hurdle, and parenthesis, thank you so much for the eye-opening, because I was really completely closed up to all of this since very recently, and I was like, wow, I have to do something about this. But what I find as a female writer is that the banks are owned by guys. And so my question is, how do we then break that wall? Because to be able to bring those stories out and actually have all those beautiful people involved, well, we need the money. So how do we break that to get, more attention so that the men holding, maybe it's my conception, but I have the conception that a lot is man-powered banks and money. How do we break that to get access?
I mean, you deal with a lot of that, yeah.
So we actually had when we were doing our dog company, we actually had to raise quite a large sum of money to make that happen. And our investors are all men, primarily. We have one woman investor, and so it was somewhat difficult. But what we found, when you look at the statistics, women-run companies actually bring in a higher return for their investors, and also women are the primary buyer of products, and they're more likely to hold the remote for their kids and make those choices. And so if the banks were smart, they would back women.
Okay, we have time for one more.
Is it on? Hi. Hi, I thank you all for this too, it's really great. The statistic that was brought up, which is equally alarming, the one about boys being violent and, you know, depicted in that way, I feel like where does that intersect in this, that we have to reteach boys how to be human beings as well, you know? I think that's an important part of this discussion.
Who wants to take that one on?
I mean, yeah, I think modeling is so important in whatever you're putting on the screen. I mean, like you were saying, some of this stuff is just like what we're doing in preschool. You know, it's just when you see it and then you can absorb it and you see people being kind to each other and you realize this is an imitatable behavior and you absorb that. I think it's just, you just need to keep seeing that and we need to keep putting it out there.
Yeah, Stacey?
Yeah, and then also just there are small acts that you can do. When I worked at Nick Jr., sometimes we would show boys hugging each other. You know, that's something that you don't show a whole lot of, but like after, you know, they did something great together, you know what, let's give each other a hug. You don't have to even write that in the script, in the board, you can do that. It's a quick little thing, but that one little act can really change the perception of what their relationships can be with each other.
Yeah. You looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, right, so it's the same thing that we're doing for women is we show a positive representation of a diverse type of male as well. Mm-hmm. And you show them interacting in healthy ways with one another and with women, and it's the exact same thing. Yeah. If he can see it, he can be it.
Right? Yeah. Which, I mean, it goes back to the data, right? So like the data is the thing that brought that up for you. So if you guys want more data, we have all the data on the website, right? You go to seejane.org. Every single study is on there. And as members, you have access to every panel and everything we've ever done, right? And all those videos. And so please go to the data, look at the data. And beyond the data, like Soraya mentioned, we also have the toolkits, right? Which are the tips and the tricks and the advice for how you can do things better. And we're always having new campaigns and new ideas of things that you can do. So please use us as a resource. And we were so excited to have all of you here today. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing and your shows.
Thanks, Nicole.
Good night.